So, did you know the first step to being a conscious or woke person is when you recognize that you have an ego? Yep, being conscious has nothing to do with what people are doing on the outside world or if you're in or out of the matrix. The first step to being a conscious individual is knowing thyself. Let's talk about it. So if you're a subscriber, if you've been to my channel before, thank you very much for listening to me ramble on. And if you are new, hi, welcome. My name's Love, spell the queen with the pen. On this channel, I go into various subjects like manifestation, self-help and healing, how to change your vibrational frequency, how to be the best version of yourself, actually. So if that seems like something that you're interested in, please make sure you remember to hit the like button, smash the subscribe button, and ring that bell. We stir up the pot in here. Y'all ready or not? Today, our subject is about your ego. What is your ego exactly? How does it affect you and how you can affect your ego? The definition of an ego is the sense of self-importance. The word sense means feelings and self-important means over-exaggerated ideology of yourself. So technically, your ego is an over-exaggerated feeling of yourself. Now, your ego is also the bridge between things. So it literally is what you experience on the outside world and what you internalize and bridging that gap. It's where the conscious and the subconscious meet and create behaviors, ideologies, and actions. It also is the place where the ego allows you to be interacted with a certain type of way. Most people do not realize that they're operating out of their ego. The only time that we are conscious of an ego is when somebody else comes around and has an over-exaggerated or ridiculous behavior that our ego does not accept or like or respond very well to. That is the only time that we'll recognize it in somebody else. But 90% of the time, we do not recognize it within ourselves unless you become a conscious, woke person having an ego death. We'll move further into that. So your ego is that bridge. If you experience something out in the world that is pleasant, immediate gratification, something that brings nothing but joy or enjoyability to your life, then your ego will constitute that as something pleasant, something good, and something that should be continuously done. So, for example, even if it's a secular or bad activity, your ego might construct it or consider it to be something good because it brings you the satisfaction that you desire. Your ego might also figure something that is traumatic or something that has harmed you as being negative, and it will respond to that and behave in that in a certain way. So your ego is the bridge between actually what you feel externally and what you feel internally. And you will have a reaction or, an action towards that thing through your ego's response. If an ego is healthy, it is very important to your life. An ego ensures that you have some self-worth, some ability to, not really respect yourself, but to not allow for certain things to happen to you because of how you see the importance of yourself within the world. Remember, it's your version or your feelings of your own importance, self-importance. And so when you have a larger ego, then you will not allow other people's behaviors to damper, diminish, or demean you as much if it is a healthy ego. And I'm stating that because you can have a warped ego and then all of those things will change. If you have a healthy ego, you will be able to use your moral compass along with the things that you have come encountered with on the outside world, and you can take that and create a bridge that gives you a healthy understanding of how to behave, react, that is beneficial to you, not behaviors that are beneficial to the whole world and what the world thinks or whatever. I mean beneficial to your health, growth, and stature in life. Not having an ego at all is no such thing. Everyone has an ego. Some people have a depressed or suppressed ego, and some people have a very over-exaggerated, large ego. The medium ground would be someone who is conscious and aware of their ego, a woke person, right? You're aware if you have a healthy ego, if you can take an experience, whether it be traumatizing, unhealthy, sad, happy, or whatever, you can take that experience, you can mix it or couple it with your moral compass, your moral understanding of something, and you can behave, react, or respond to things in a healthy, natural manner without traumatizing yourself further or creating a facade in order to cope with that situation. An ego that is healthy will be able to be accountable for their reactions, actions, and take responsibility for their portion of the situation, regardless of how small or how large it is. A person who has a warped ego cannot do any of those things and takes something that is maybe even not even fully traumatic and turn it into a very large trauma response. It's an over-exaggeration of things. Person who has a warped ego does not have a very large moral compass. They do things based on impulse and based on what they want at the very moment, not thinking about what further actions or what further losses that they may take. It is not strategic. It is not based in reality, and it does not create fulfillment on a long-term spectrum. A warped ego is an over-exaggerated play on who this person is in order to overcompensate for their losses, insecurities, shame, and lack of understanding of who they are as a person. We have all encountered someone who has a low morale or low ego, a high ego. It usually goes side by side. And that is because being able to put on an egoic front in order to mask behaviors that seem sad and diminishing to oneself is a way of being able to glaze over and cover it up without being outed immediately. It would take you a very long time to figure out that someone with a very high ego really is insecure. Your ego is extremely important, though. It's like it is a protection layer for you, but it also is the thing that bridges the gap between your consciousness and your outside world, your subconscious and outside world. The things you experience is a straight pipeline into who you are as a person, and your ego is the one that cultivates that and molds that into the person that you present to the world on the outside and on the inside. But we need to attack the inside in order for you to be able to be a healthy person and project healthy behaviors on the outside, not live in self-sabotage, not live in self-hate, not live in insecurities. Now, how do you create an overly exaggerated or large ego? Fulfilling yourself too much. Immediate gratification is a number one way of inflating your ego to the max. People who indulge in sexual activity regularly in order to fix their emotional problems usually have an inflated ego. People who indulge in drugs, indulge in secular behaviors, and I say secular, but what I mean is like behaviors that are morally unsound, dangerous acts, things like that bring you adrenaline rush that can harm you or whatever, are considered to be secular behaviors, and those things feed the over-exaggerate, like they swell the ego. Also, creating, the thing is, it's like a circle, right? So it creates this high level of facade. And then what you do is, to keep up with the facade, you have to try to obtain those goals. If I am ambitious, I'm an ambitious person, and I want to be rich and famous one day, right? The egoic side of me will have me telling everybody who I am, what I am. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Look at my show, look at my this, look at that, or whatever, right? Which is good, but not on a level where it's all about me. That everything that I talk about is me doing this, and then it's not even on a realistic level. It's not me, actually there. It's me overinflating a small action that I've taken on. And then when someone calls me on it, or when someone puts out like, okay, yeah, well, you're doing that, but you're not even there yet. You haven't even, I'm not shitting on you, but blah, blah, blah. It's a crush, like a beat down on my ego. So I have this extreme, I set the bar this high, but I haven't reached that bar yet. It's unrealistic. But I'm so high up that I have a long fall. And when that happens, you consistently create insecurities within yourself that you're going to be outed for this facade that you've been carrying around. So now you're in a perpetual cycle of trauma, self-induced trauma. You become a person of low morale in order to keep up a facade. You become a person who could care less about others' feelings. You become someone who is argumentative, who is combative, who is standing on principles that don't need to be stood on, and pretending to be the greatest and not actually working on being the greatest perpetually continues to make you the worst. If you spend most of your time convincing people that you are here, then when will you ever get there? The ego can be, I would consider it to be like, dandelions and daisies, In a field, they look beautiful. But the truth is, it's crabgrass and it's taking over the garden. You can have a few dandelions, you can have a few daisies from time to time, but you need to be able to check that ego because it will turn around and ruin you. So when you become a woke and conscious person, the first thing that you will go after, and this is how I know a woke person from somebody who's not, and I don't usually use that word, I usually use the word conscious because conscious seems more clear, but to be conscious means to be aware. And before you can be aware of the matrix, before you can be aware of, capitalism and what's going on and political stuff and all these other outside entities, you have to be aware of thyself. And thyself starts off with ego. This is called having an ego. So when you work on your shadow self, that is your ego self, the dark side of you, the things that you hide, the things that you keep secret, the things that, create who you are as a person. When you work on that side and you bring that stuff to the forefront, you realize that 90% of what's going on with you is internal. That your experiences on the outside are your experiences on the outside, but how you internalize those experiences is why you're experiencing the way they are in the first place. And that if you just change how you perceive the experience, you can change the experience as a whole. So having an ego death literally means to stop feeling the feeling, but observe yourself feeling the feeling. Now I'm going to talk about this for a second because this is where I was like, having an ego death, and I was like, there's stages to this, and I could talk about the stages of shadow work in another episode. But when you're having an ego death, one of the things that comes up is you have to let go of control over the ego dying. Now, when I say ego death, let me reiterate, there is no actual really killing an ego. An ego is part of you. It is the general makeup of you, and you will never, ever be able to suppress an ego to the point of death. And you should never try because it's not real and it won't happen. You'll just be suppressing your emotions. But when you have an ego death, it means the way in which your ego was living within you is now going to die, and you're going to deal with your ego consciously. Now you are not reactive, combative, and allowing people to enter into your space in the way they want to, and you being, just dealing with it as it comes. But you are proactive in how you allow emotions to be entertained within the body. Now, when somebody does something that triggers you, you are aware that you're being triggered first. After you're aware that you're being triggered, then you go into your mind space and start consciously deciding if that person is intentionally triggering you. How does it feel that they've done such a behavior? And how do you want to respond? This is now you telling your ego what to do instead of your ego telling you what to do. People who let their ego tell them what to do are the people who get mad easily. She pissed me off. Nah, that motherfucker gotta get it. Those are the people who are very much ruled by their egoic behaviors. They're very much ruled by what people think of them, how people respond to their response is what they're more concerned with, because they need to keep up the facade of being someone that doesn't get messed with. Fighting and arguing with somebody is not how you get messed with. That's exactly how you get messed with. People who don't get messed with do not deal with stuff. I'm trying not to cuss, y'all. They don't deal with stuff. Someone who is in control of their ego will address a situation and kill it. They will not go back and forth with you. They will not argue down about it. I said what I said came from someone who was fully in control of their egoic behavior. They do not have an over-exaggerated, false, phallic impression of their ego. They know who they are. They know how they're responding, and they're doing it consciously and intentfully. And that is having an ego death, or killing your ego in the first place. So when you are at the point of allowing yourself to release control over your feelings and just observing your feelings from a detached situation, then and only then can you and your ego be consciously aware of each other, and you will, my dear, be woke. Everything after that will fall into alignment. Yes, you will be out of the matrix, because now you're aware that you're aware. And if you think about the movie The Matrix, that was the whole thing. Once this person was aware that they were aware of themselves and where they were at, then the Matrix was fake. But until they were aware of themselves, they weren't aware of their surroundings. So you can sit here and be a person who, when I run across people all the time who are conscious people, and, my sister, my brother, my, queen, my king, and all that, and they have like these religious ideologies behind spiritual and, conspiracy type information. They seem like Christians, but wearing another hat. They're, Christians for, aliens or something. I don't know. But you get what I'm saying? Like having this, rigid, as a matter of fact, attitude about spirituality, veganism, health, healing, like all the things that we consider to be outside of the matrix activity. They're having a matrix behavior behind them. And it is because they haven't become conscious. They haven't realized themselves. They are trying to equivocate their experience to the outside. They're trying to say that the outside world, if we just did this physically, if we just did that physically, if we just experienced this, if we just experienced that, then we would be in a different place and we would all be woke. But that is not the case, sweetheart. No, the only thing that awakens you is you, and it can only be awoken from inside. And it doesn't matter if you eat meat, if you eat bread, if you eat cheese. It doesn't matter if you experience the world from the eyes of spirituality, or if you experience it from Buddhism, or if you experience it from Christianity. It does not matter if you experience it in those ways, because you are not experiencing you yet. You have not observed yourself to understand how you work in order to understand how you will experience them. And experiences of the mind, it's thought, it's consciousness, it's your ability to create the life you want based on how you want to live it. So, your ego has to die. The truth about it is that you can be any type of person you want to while having a large, inflated ego. You can be a person who is wealthy, financially stable. You can have family members and friends that adore you. You can have a lifestyle that's okay. But on this channel, I'm talking about fulfilling yourself to the ultimate level, like being the whole damn pie. And the only way you can do that is if you get inside yourself and create a version of yourself that is fulfilled, happy, and enjoyable. Talk to your inner child. Be able to create abundance within you. Be the best version of you, because making all this money and making other people feel happy with your success is one thing, but when you go and lay home in your bed at night, Can you sleep without thinking you're an imposter, a failure, or unhappy with the choices you've made? Your moral compass, have regrets, people that you wish you could speak to now that you've destroyed relationships with? Think about that for a second. Your ego is responsible for all of those things. And yes, you may be able to convince yourself that somehow that person deserved that behavior that you were rendering because they made you mad, or because they pissed you off, or because they should have known better, or because you don't owe nobody nothing, and blase, blase, and yeah, you make mistakes and you just gonna move on from them then. But your subconscious knows when you ain't shit. And those insecurities will show up in so many other ways. So, are we going to be best versions of ourselves now, or are we going to keep pretending? Check your ego, huh? I'll stir up this pot for long enough. Bye for now.
I got a rose for you. I got a rose for the sun.